Robert?
It is 3 o'clock on the 6th of May, 2019, meeting of the Architectural Advisory Committee. Please silence all cell phones and pagers. Planning Director, please call roll.
Member Walsh?
Here.
Member Paline?
Here.
Member McCoy?
Present.
Member Lockyer?
Here.
Member Dosey? Member Rotman?
Here.
And Chair Jakeway is excused. We have a quorum.
We have the staff report on the posting of the agenda.
Mr. Vice Chair, the agenda was posted on Wednesday, May the 1st. This meeting has been noticed and posted in accordance with state law.
Does the committee have any revisions to the agenda? No? Do we have a motion to accept it?
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
Second?
Second.
We go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 So noted.
Since this is a public meeting, audience members are permitted to comment on any issues that's within the committee's purview. Comments on an item appearing on today's agenda are made at the time the item is presented. If you want to speak on an item not on today's agenda, you may speak now. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Is there anyone here who wants to make a comment on an item that is not on today's agenda? If so, please come up to the microphone, give us your name and address for the record, and proceed. Does not appear like we have anybody, so we'll move on to the meeting minutes from the last meeting dated April 1st, 2019. Any revisions to the meeting minutes? If not, do I hear a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
Who was the second on that, Mr. Walsh?
Let's have a vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, so now we will move on to the new business. Oh, is there any unfinished business? No. So we move on to new business. Item number 3, may we have a staff report?
Yes. Good afternoon. The project in front of you is a proposed commercial facade improvement at 140 West Villalona for a new cocktail lounge called the Pamplemousse Palm Springs. The project site is located at the corner of North Palm Canyon Drive and West Villalona. This is a mixed-use building, and this property is very unique. The zone designation of the property is split right in the middle, and half of the property on the North Palm Canyon Drive side is actually C1, which is a commercial, and the other half is R2, which is multi-family residential zone. So this building contains both commercial uses as well as residential uses. To be exact, actually apartment and vacation rental on the west side. And the project happens in the area that's highlighted in orange on the West Villalona frontage. This is just to show the street facing elevation on the West Villalona. If you look at the pictures at the bottom, starting from the right side, this is an existing coffee shop that's located at the corner of North Palm Canyon and West Villalona. It's called Ernest Coffee, which connects to Bootlegger Tiki Bar. It's a cocktail lounge, and the project site is right next to it, which was previously utilized by an art gallery. And the property continues to the residential and vacation rental side. It's called the Twist. So this slides to show you what the property currently looks like and what the applicant is proposing. The most prominent changes is the application of composite wood siding on the primary elevation, as well as the installation of the hedges, which actually are artificial ficus hedges, to create this outdoor patio area, which is going to be utilized for a cocktail, I should say, bar slash drink counter. And I'm gonna show a little bit more details in the upcoming slides. As you can see, the applicant is proposing the application of a composite wood siding in a vertical and a horizontal orientation to bring some textures. And the applicant is proposing to utilize an existing 18-inch high concrete wall to accommodate the proposed new ficus hedges. The color of the siding is gonna be Spanish walnut. It's blonde in color. And the applicant is also proposing to use a similar color palette to the door frames and the window sashes. It's gonna be mossy gold. It's gonna be like brown color. And then also a new retractable awning is going to be installed on the soffit of the building to provide a shade for the outdoor patio space. This is a section of the outdoor patio area. As you can see, there will be an retractable awning that's coming towards the street, and there will be a counter space, and the artificial hedges will be on the other street side. And this is a detailed drawing of how the artificial ficus hedges will be constructed. As I mentioned briefly, existing the concrete planter wall is going to be utilized. The wood framing is going to be constructed on top of it to create a structural frame for the artificial ficus hedge, which will also accommodate an exposed neon sign eventually. And this is another section drawing for the treatment of an existing stone wall which divides the art gallery space from the residential portion. And again, the composite wood siding will be applied to the exterior of the wall as well. The Palm Springs zoning code does not provide any stipulation pertaining to the use of artificial materials in the landscaping. And then also, at this point, the design of the exposed neon sign has not been finalized. Staff finds that based on the findings that are required by the zoning code, the proposed design generally meet those requirements. And for the reason, the staff is recommending the Architectural Advisory Committee to approve the proposed project subject to the conditions of approval that are included in the report. The applicant is here today to answer any questions you may have, and then also there is a material that's probably floating around for your review. And staff is also will be able to answer any questions you may have. And this concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Noriko. Are there any questions for staff? John?
Noriko, just a couple detailed questions. Can we go back to the slide that shows the section with an indication of the awning? Yeah, there you go. The awning is compliant when fully extended, is that correct?
That is correct.
I just got confused on the math because it was 5 feet 6 inches. Where did I get that?
Oh, excuse me.
I mean, it's okay if it's compliant, you know. And there is a setback there, correct?
That is correct. In this case, the general yard section in the zoning code allows a certain architectural feature to project into the setback area for
Okay.
a certain distance. And in this case, the projection will be approximately about 5 feet, I remember, 5.5. I think that's where
Yeah.
Mr. Walsh you're referring
Right.
to. So it still
Okay.
meets the zoning requirement.
Okay, and all of that existing patio is within the setback, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay,
And the proposed wall also meets the zoning code. I'm sorry, not really a wall, but it's gonna be the drink counter, which is gonna be
Right.
the vertical wall. That also meets the zoning requirement as well.
okay, it is allowed
It is allowed,
in
yes,
that front setback?
correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? No? Is the applicant present? Please come up to the mic, give your name and address, and tell us about your project. You have 10 minutes to present and 2 minutes of rebuttal, if desired, after any public comments.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steven Nieto. My address is 54300 Avenida Vallejo in La Quinta, California. I am the applicant and working with our client here, Ingen. He's the owner of the new space that will be here on Villalobos, as you're seeing here. It's going to be a sort of a really craft lounge and bar, which is not going to be serving any food, just all liquor and sort of craft spirits. The idea is that the interior is supposed to feel like a French tailor shop feel on the inside, so we wanted to reflect the look and the feel on the outside, hence the hedges. There's working with a branding person who's also involved in the project. The idea of a neon sign came up early, which is very attractive and something we hope becomes unique to the place and becomes part of the kind of identity of it. It's supposed to be sort of a very sort of low-key kind of bar, not a rowdy bar, but they're hoping to attract a very sort of eclectic crowd, and the inside will sort of reflect everything that the sort of French tailor shop feels, so very sort of themed and sort of the interior environment. The exterior siding, we chose sort of a wood composite for affordability and for something that would withstand sort of the heat, the south-facing facade that's sort of taking a beating right now. We talked to a local rep, and he had some good things to say about in terms of the color loss, which is only like a 5% color loss on it. So I think it'll withstand to that well. The artificial hedge will be built around an existing concrete planter wall that's there. So rather than sort of demolishing that, we thought we would build on top of that and just sort of frame on top of that to create the hedge that holds sort of the sign box, which will, the mechanics, the electrical would be inside of that. And then a nice sort of wood fence that doubles as a drink rail and then has some sort of under counter lighting on the inside to kind of give it a nice sort of moody environment. The awning will be mainly for shade, really. I think that existing overhang is 4 feet, but even in the summer months, the sun still kind of comes into that space pretty harsh. So we're going to have a manual awning there just to help with shade, and it extends to 6 feet. I don't have anything else to add to that other than I think we hope that the addition to this kind of enhances the look of what's there now. I think the building is already sort of a eclectic mix of interesting things around the corner. You know, there's this sort of tiki bar that's there. There's an Ernest Coffee around the corner. There's these tiki totems that blow fire around the space. So it's really sort of an eclectic mix, and I think this project enhances sort of that eclectic mix of uses in this region, I think, of downtown. So I'm happy to answer any questions from anybody. Yeah.
Are there any comments from the public? Doesn't look like it, so we'll move on. We'll conclude public comment, and do we have any questions from the AAC toward the applicant? Member Sean?
Oh, yeah, thanks. So quick, as I look at the existing photos, so I'm trying to get my head around the hedge you're proposing there, that head material, and I wonder why that the material you've chosen versus a live material.
I think the look we wanted was this sort of glowing sign that sort of emerges from a organic plant material, this sort of secret garden look from talking with the branding team, and I think that's supposed to be the kind of the look that we want, and we didn't see with time constraints and growing real hedges and the sort of realities behind making that happen. We thought that an artificial hedge would give us that same look and not use any water or maintenance and be affordable, and they're out of Orange County, so if, they say it lasts 7 to 8 years and doesn't discolor, so I'm sure we could, if there's any concern about how it would hold up, I think that can be swapped out and maintained and look lush and fluffy, but that was sort of the thinking behind our artificial use of hedge material.
As I look at the existing photos, can we jump to that slide? And then if you can just visualize without going back to the other slide, there's a section drawing that shows that existing lower wall. You call it a concrete wall. It's like a stone wall with a concrete cap on it, the low one. And so I see here it's got a planter in front of it, and then I can kind of surmise by that lower left, second from the far left photo, that existing concrete flatwork comes all the way up to the back side of that wall. And so in order to achieve right there, exactly. So the concrete hardscape comes right up to that wall. So in order for you to build your higher wall behind that I think you're cladding with a wood, this wood material here. You have to cut some of that slab, right? And pour footing and establish a wall?
There's like a 6-inch gap, actually. The slab doesn't go all the way to the wall. There's some river rock that's down in there now. It shows it on the site planning in this section as well, but. You use a microphone. Right there, you'll see there's about a 6 or 7-inch space all the way around where we can access and put posts for the hold the fence, and then also anchor it to the concrete planter wall that's there. So don't think we need to bust out any flat work for the patio, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah, I guess where I was going with this is it just looks like a fair amount of planter space for like the real material in front of it. Real meaning like ficus, or like a ficus vine takes a while to establish and become that green carpet that I think you're probably looking for.
Yeah.
Whereas a ficus hedge or another material hedge can be purchased, established already.
Do you think there's any sort of fire-related things by putting lights inside, kind of real organic? We want that.
No more than plastic.
Yeah. Okay. I think I don't know if we have enough space to grow a hedge there. I mean, there's barrel cactus there, but we would probably end up with a kind of a strange section, maybe with a tall ficus, and then.
Well, I think you'd be purchasing tall ficus because you're looking for the fullness and the caliper of something that's mature and thick and bushy, but probably cutting it down pretty far if you wanted that same height. I don't want to tell you how to do it, but just throwing it out there. I don't think you start off with little guys. You're starting off with some big ones and cutting it down because you need the thickness and the fullness.
Right. Yeah, if we decided to go with a real ficus hedge that needed landscape treatment, I mean, it would probably be a whole different approach to where we planted, I think, because we still probably would end up with, I'm guessing, a tall ficus hedge that's maybe the same height as our counter, and then we would have a low point where we would have concrete, and then we'd have a drink well. So maybe the section will change because we're framing on it to kind of consolidate that space. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine how that. One of the reasons we covered that wall too was to prevent people from
Sitting on it.
Yeah, sitting on it
Yeah.
and bringing their drinks out there and things like that.
Well, I think in the weight, well, I don't know how much is discussion time. I know it was a
No, it's questions.
yeah. So, yeah, maybe I'll hold off on the rest, but I guess I wanted to just get inside your head of why you chose the material, and I think I got my answer for now. So we'll discuss it more later. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Locker. Any other questions of the applicant?
Yeah, so,
Member Poline?
yes, so I'm looking at the elevation, and if you look at the building, when the building actually turns, it's white stucco on the side. And one of the things I was asking is how you're gonna end the wood material at that corner condition? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, the wood comes with trim pieces and caps, but I think that the finished materials right now is planned to stop right on that edge and not wrap the corner and sort of influence that wall. There's a stair, a stair there that's pulled off the wall a little bit, so that space is already kind of blocked from view, or at least it's cluttered, I guess. And there's also some gas equipment there that's used for the tiki bars, fire torches. That's all up on that wall as well. You can kind of see it, if I can point to it. It all sort of happens underneath that stair. It's a very kind of a messy underneath side there.
Right. Okay, and then the other one I was looking at is the existing stone wall detail for the new wood behind. Is that the tall wall on the right side? This one?
No, the left side. So this wall, we're not gonna do any wood veneer on it. It's sort of outward facing. This one, we were gonna give a wood veneer to help kind of enclose the space, and so when you're in the patio, you're
Okay.
surrounded
it's
by the
inside of
warmth,
that wall.
the
Okay.
wood. Yeah,
Got it. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Member Dosey?
On the plan, you label the proposed hedge material. One area is 24 inches and the other is 48 inches. Is that the desired height of that plant material?
yeah, that's right. It's taller on the 48 side to kind of hold the sign and the sign sort of box and the electrical requirements on the inside. We'll have an access panel sort of like camouflaged into the hedge, so we can get in there and change the electrical or work on the sort of the mechanics on the inside. And the lower one is really just to add some variety to it. A lower hedge wall that just changes the elevation and maybe exposes the drink well a little bit more. That's sort of the.
And the purpose of the lower hedge is just to create a foreground to the wood paneling behind?
Yeah, two reasons: to pick up, to keep the hedge look across the whole facade, and also to hopefully prevent drunk people from sitting on it. If it was just sort of a concrete, it looks like a nice seat, but just trying to prevent that.
Thank you.
Member,
Actually, that's okay.
Member Walsh?
Yes, thank you. Questions just in terms of a functional issue, in terms of service and all. So deliveries are gonna come in and trash is gonna go out that one door, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I sort of see what you're trying to do in terms of that front patio. I think it could be a pleasant space. And I think that the integration of the materials that you have against what the rest of the building, God knows there's a lot going on in there aesthetically in terms of materials and particular detailing, but I think it kind of pulls it together to a certain extent with the stone and the wood. You have a couple materials there that I personally have no experience with, either the composite wood or the hedge, the artificial hedge. And I worry perhaps in terms of their longevity and their look over a period of time, and that's the type of thing that if you got close to it and it didn't wear well over time, it could really do harm aesthetically.
If I can answer,
Sure,
we
yes.
had the same concern.
Yeah, I'd have to be convinced.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so I called the rep. And we call the rep, and it's much more affordable than real wood, but he's saying that it really only has a 5% color gradation over like 10 years. So it doesn't change colors. It doesn't really warp. it applies with sort of a fastening system, so some wood furring strips and some clips, so it's very well anchored to the facade, and it's sort of a tongue and groove, so nothing's gonna be, hoping nothing, doesn't move, push and pull. Composite wood, I think will withstand, I think, that maybe the south heat much better than real wood that might dry or split, or, if not treated properly.
I'm sympathetic, I get the look, and,
Yeah.
and one sees this in commercial development, and particularly retail and tenant improvement. It's sitting out there in a very tortured environment in terms of what it's going to have to withstand. So that,
Right,
my
right.
concern on your behalf is that it
Anything-
always
any-
look this
yeah.
good.
Anything we put really will be subject to the extreme
Oh,
really
yeah.
desert heat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, just voicing those
Yeah.
concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member LaCroix, any questions?
One quick question on the elevation, page 1 of 1, showing the direct front. It appears that in the drink portion of the wall, that it has gaps between the boards. And the other part, it's clearly a tongue and groove that's put together. Is that the case, or is it all tongue and groove put together?
No, it's a good question. The tongue and groove composite is actually going to be on the facade. The actual drink rail would be made of real wood.
Okay.
It'd be real. The composite is really just going to be sticking on the facade where the stucco is as the back face, the main facade face, and that drink rail will be made from real lumber. Correct.
Okay, I have a question for you. One of the recommendations by staff is to maintain the barrel cactus. How much space is there in the planter in front of what you're proposing?
I love the barrel cactus too. I think the barrel cactus really would change the look of what we're going for. I don't think there's space for the barrel cactus and let's say 6 inches of framing in front of that planter wall to maintain them both. Plus, I don't know if a barrel cactus would look good in front of a ficus hedge. I think they look great now in front of that concrete, but in terms of the theme of the bar and the desires of what they want the place to be, we propose that we just relocate the barrel cactus somewhere else on the property.
Okay,
If we, that's just, I don't know. If we have to maintain them, I'm sure we can relocate. Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Member Lockwood?
Curious if this is it's a lease or an ownership opportunity here. And I ask that, but just tell you where I'm going with it is how that wood gets applied to that natural stone masonry wall on the west side of that patio there. And then I have another 1 or 2 questions about how some of the paint treatments return around the sides. It started from that question of how that wood terminates on that front facade, so, sorry, one at a time. Is it a lease opportunity? It's a lease?
Yeah.
I'm leasing it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm curious, like, how does the wood siding on that masonry walls, I think it's the detail on sheet A30, I believe. It's the bottom left detail, doesn't have a number, it says new wood screened existing stone wall.
Right.
So, and why I ask that is, what if someone wanted to come back later and utilize that natural stone wall that's probably been there for 50 years? Is it gonna be all beat up, or will the attachments be in the mortar joints or carefully, or something like that?
We don't have a detail of how that goes. I think we're still still working through the details once we get approval on how it gets attached, but the idea is that maybe we're probably gonna have to put some furring strips to pull it out, so, because the wall already is sort of got stone on it, but I'm sure we can find a way not to put too many holes in any of the stones. Maybe we keep it to the mortar joints only. So in the event that we do remove all this wood siding, that would remain intact, I guess, in the best possible way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also aligned with that thought as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I know the answer, but the paint that you're painting on the eaves, which you can almost see all of
Yeah.
them on that particular rendering image at the top, but then it extends down and it returns on the left side of the entry of the Tiki Lounge also, or the entry doors to the east there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that wall treatment and that eave that returns down? I'm assuming it'll be the same color. It'll hit.
Yeah, we would try to paint all the sort of the paint is sort of a color that blends between the wood, the wood composite material and the sort of dark charcoal metal siding. And right now it's white. It's like sort of stark white. So we would paint it and sort of paint the planes, the roof, all the surfaces continuously as possible. So if I can point, this will receive paint. This will receive paint. Underneath will also be the same material as this, so it'll kind of come over the top.
It's wood on the ceiling then?
It's the composite wood material over the top of the ceiling.
So you
Correct.
have to demo the ceiling to apply that?
No, we would apply it the same way we apply the over the existing stucco. So it's a stucco overhang. So it's just going to be a lightweight, mechanically adhered screen over that.
So how does that get trimmed out then? Because you'll see the edge of your substrate and you'll see the edge of those boards then. But let me jump forward to what was going to be my last question. Why do the boards rotate along that facade? Is that all the same plane I'm looking at there, or is it two separate
No, they
planes?
rotate. They rotate just to create some interest in the facade and change it over the entry, as opposed to not. We thought we liked it that way.
Okay, so the vertical boards, do they come up and come out?
And
toward
sorry?
the vertical boards on that siding, they come over the ceiling and head south, right, on the ceiling there towards us.
That's a good question. We're still finalizing our reflected ceiling plan, but I think maybe running. That's one option, is to keep the continuity of the surface wrapping over the top, or we can run them all directionally one way to kind of accentuate the length of the patio. I think either way, nobody might really recognize that besides us. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
Don't put them on the ceiling, that's my suggestion.
Just leave it off and
Well,
put
I
paint?
think it's not accounted for here. Then you need to drop some fascia detail or something to cover up all those, the edges, and like I said, whatever you're adhering them to, if it's hat channel or something like that. And so I don't think that's quite accounted for here.
The reason we didn't put that stuff underneath the metal was for rain. We just thought if we tucked some of that stuff underneath, any sort of rain would drip over the edge and not get in between the siding and the fascia and the wood panel. So that, we can, if we just kept it underneath, any rain would just drip right over and not have to risk getting it in. It was just an easier, more affordable solution for us that we sort of made those decisions to, really cost on a lot of it. Yeah, I don't know.
I have another question. Oh, go ahead, John.
At the entry door, you've got glass, is that frosted? Is it gonna have a name on it? Is it gonna be
Blank.
some?
It's there. It's existing door. It's already a glass entry door. The idea is that it's just blank. It's just
Okay.
it's just
And
As is.
I know you haven't hashed out the logo and all that, but in one location you've got it spec'd as pink, and here you've got it spec'd as white. Have you chosen that color?
The color is I think we I think white is the color that we like. The branding and graphic designer person that's doing the logo is hasn't really released the actual logo yet. So
Right, so we don't have our hard one, what color you?
yeah, we want something that is subtle, very subtle, and not too bright.
Yeah, we definitely be.
Please step up to the mic.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we really want to hide it, so we don't want anything on anybody's face as far as the color.
I think the white looks very nice against the green. Sorry for the confusion on the drawing set.
All right, and then, for my fellow members, the last page has some details on the, perhaps, but which might, as we discuss how it wraps in the ceiling, the end fascia is in there, what appears to be in there, which, you know, you were talking about the rain sheeting and finishing, which might work, as you said. You also have lighting changes. You have gone to a small can versus the existing rectangular fixtures that are up there.
Yeah.
With that, are those going to be on dimmers?
Yeah, everything is going to be dimmable.
Okay.
Yeah, we want this to be very moody and dim kind of place on the exterior. Of course, I think we've got the right amount of light we needed for the sort of tasks in the patio, but the idea is that these lights are sort of providing just enough light to provide a safe sort of, you know, walking
Okay.
environment and drinking environment.
You've got LED tape lights spec'd at the drink counter.
Right.
And in the pinholes, you've got lamps spec'd, and the gooseneck, you've got lamps spec'd. The pinhole says, the spec is 3,000K, which is
Very
decent. You want to watch your tape light, because that's probably going to come in at 5,000. It's a very cold color, and the two are not
Yeah,
very
keep 'em-
complementary.
Keep them warm, yeah. Okay.
And based on the photometric plan, I'm not sure what, they ran it with 5,000K in the downlights, and you're getting some really, really high intensity numbers, which may also be coming from a spot
hot spot
lamp
because they-
versus a flood, which will be uncomfortable standing under if you have it intense.
Yeah.
So visually reading it, if you're trying to create this
Yeah.
bespoke
Right.
feeling, you've got some integration that needs to be looked at.
Okay, so the lighting, from the lighting consultant, the idea is that we put these lights provided a sort of a degree, like a wash at an angle, so when they were on, you would actually see them kind of shining against the glass and down, and not sort of really an even wash. That was sort of the look that we wanted, and also the light that sort of barn light, I guess, over the door. It's sort of a dim light, so we want it, as Ingen said, to be very minimal. I think those numbers there are probably because of they're sort of spot-like, and they have this sort of angular, I guess, wash on it. So if they're dimmable, which they will be, then we should be able to adjust
Right.
the brightness levels and not be too sort of, you know, hot spots and uncomfortable.
So since you brought up the barn light look, that you want that to be very low-key, in the specification for the light, this one is specifically ideal for retail centers, industrial parks, schools and universities, public transit, and airports, office buildings, and medical facilities. So this, you may want to look at this specification, because this
If they get too bright.
will not, no, I object to this
Okay.
fixture in this neighborhood. It's just not appropriate, that kind of, yeah. The quantity of light that's gonna come out of this thing is, as they said, industrial parks, airports, you're adjacent to a residential area,
Yeah,
so.
and I'm aligned with you 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm not a sort of a lighting expert. We relied on our lighting consultants to really, you know, put the best light forward that they had, and if it's unacceptable, we will
Yeah.
Yeah,
we will
and that-
have them change that up, no
And
problem.
that ties back to my question about the door. Why do you have it in the first place if you're just lighting a piece of glass? The light just goes right through it
Hopefully the
to the
ground,
indoors.
hopefully hopefully the
Or,
ground, and that's a
or
good
also
point.
as you walk up to it, it's reflecting in your eye. So,
We like the look of a cool light over an entry door as a design aesthetic. Maybe if we dimmed it, or are you suggesting no light at all there? And maybe just leave them, can we just provide a dim light? Because I think that's the sort of a unique look that we want, right? I mean, I'm open to,
Yeah, we're open.
we're open to ideas on that.
yeah, I think you need to rethink and.
It's just the
decide
light
what it's
fixture
gonna
then,
be.
right?
Yeah.
Just the light fixture? Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, just a clarification, I reread the staff recommendation about the barrel cactus. It's only in front of the stone wall, is that right, Norco? So are you amenable to keeping those barrel cactus? Just in the stone wall portion, right there,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah.
Is there right now here?
Yeah, there's three.
There's-
There's three there.
Yeah, we're not touching.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Four? Yeah,
all
no
right,
problem.
Good, I just wanted a clarification on that. And the other concern I had was that as you paint this fascia, I'm assuming it's stucco, as you wrap the corner, I think the paint should continue, but how you break it is something you need to look at. So,
On that side,
yes, on that side.
probably right where the metal siding ends, it seems like maybe a good natural spot, and it's clearly indicated. It stops right there. So it's got 4 feet of return.
Right.
And it'll stop.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Thank you, you can step down.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
the committee is open for discussion. We start at that end. Member Pauline?
Okay, overall, I'm pretty good with it. I think, I kind of agree that doing the wood on the underhang is not a great idea. I think and that could be a value issue, just to have that painted with the fascia color. Because I think, the intersection between, especially the vertical and the horizontal, depending on how you do that, is gonna be a bit awkward. And that corner is gonna be a little weird. So I'm thinking maybe you just look at paint for the underside of the soffit. I'm not a huge fan of swapping the direction of the wood. It feels kind of odd to me. And then my other concern is how that condition ends, because when you see it on the corner, you're gonna see this wood and then just white stucco. And I feel that's still a bit of an awkward detail. So the one thing I was thinking, and again with the overhang or with the soffit, it's gonna be kind of awkward, but I was thinking you could use that wall as a delineation of where the sort of wood stops. So the edge of, the inside edge of that, the block wall to the west, should I get up and point? Can I just bring this? There you go. That's easier. I'll just bring this. What I was wondering is if you could take this line basically up and have the white stucco sort of pull it out a bit so that there's a little bit of a reveal there. So the wood dies into something a little bit cleaner. So that's what I was kind of looking to do.
So it'd be like, am I allowed to speak?
Oh, not now. Unless there's a question directed to you.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
So I think that's it for me for now.
Member Dosey?
I would like to see that the stone wall be retained. I think there's some design solutions that can work with what they're proposing in lieu and address the problem of people sitting on it. I think there's, I like the stone, I think it should remain. I'm not a fan of this, what would be kind of a large boxed area near the sign of the artificial plants. When you look at the side detail, there's not a dimension on there, but it does go up 4 feet or 4 feet 3 inches or 48 inches and then comes out. So it's kind of this big kind of artificial box. And then I would like to see the use of live plant material. for whatever their solution is.
Member Lochner?
Yeah, so, I hate to take the wind out of their sails for the wood ceiling, so I don't know that I would eliminate. If it's really important to you guys, then I think it's fine, but it hasn't been thought about here yet of how that details out along the front, so I think to keep it clean would be a fully metal wrapped fascia board, and I'm not sure how you detail that on that east end, but maybe just extend or stop the fascia and just keep that clean line all the way across and return it around the west side. I too would like to see a natural material used instead of the prosthetic material for the hedge that's being proposed there. And I think to me that's it's not just a personal preference. I feel like where I've seen that in the past, it's dusty. Maybe it's not completely discolored from the sun, but it's not the true color that it was the day it was installed, 6 months or a year later. And it has a certain cheap appearance to it as it degrades. It's a pretty harsh environment out here in the desert in the full sun on that south facade that I would think even seeing the structure of it and the attachment method of how those interlock, it really scares me, and I think it may take away from the aesthetic that you're looking for, and it's just not as clean. So that would be my vote for the natural material. For the keeping of but I'm not that offended by the way it's configured here, the material. I think it's actually a nice composition. What I might argue, though, is the barrel cactus underneath the stone wall on the east facade there. I don't think that ties in with your ownership here of your space, and I would think that's not the right material to use along the base of that stone wall. It shouldn't be barrel cactus. It should be replaced with something lower and more complementary, and maybe it's a low ficus or a Japanese boxwood or something that might hold up that's complementary and nice and clean, and the similar language and texture and green carpet that you're looking for. And if you don't want it to cover that whole stone wall, I think that's wonderful. It should be a low material like barrel cactus height or slightly taller, and something that dials in, that now takes your presence all the way from your west property line, for lack of a better term, to your east property line, and really captures that whole space and says, hey, look, I'm here, and not just over here. And so for the light fixture itself also, I think it's just the wrong spec. It's actually angling back towards the glass, like John had pointed out, and but I think, it wouldn't take long to got 10 minutes on Google to find the fixture you're looking for that does what you're hoping it'll do up there. Tom's comment about the stone wall, I think you mean on the west side there. Yeah. I don't know how much that wood application, how much mileage you're really getting out of that either by making it wood. And I might agree with that comment, that I think it's in danger of destroying 50 years of integrity and history there for what? And I don't really see the payoff as being worth the damage that it's going to cause to that stone wall. And I hope you're there for 50 years, but I don't know that you will be. I'm sure you'll move into a much bigger space after how well this does. So I would argue that it's probably worth keeping what's existing there now. And I think it even helps tie in the whole space with what I'm saying about keeping that greenery running from the west to the east, and now seeing that stone again begin on the east and repeat again on the west in a subtle way. I don't know that you really need it, and that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. Member McCoy?
Yeah, with the light spec, getting it, I agree with the shape, just getting the right spec. And I will agree with what the members have said in their comments.
Member Walsh, thank you.
The fork in the road is whether or not you accept that little low stone wall that is there. And I think personally, I probably would have tried to integrate it and have a less challenging project, because I think that it has taken a tremendous amount of problem solving to kind of get the extended buildup around the wall and everything to work and to tie in aesthetically. But that's a fork in the road, and I can accept the direction that this has gone and that you have taken it. But the devil is in the detailing on that type of thing. The next comment is, I would not burden this user with these barrel cactus reuse things. I think that when you evaluate the overall elevation of this building, it's like, you've got these divergent storefronts that are happening. And that's not unacceptable. And so I think that yes, it's sort of a change of theme, a change of detailing. They need to look somewhat harmonious, but clearly you've got different users selling different things in these different locations. And so I just, to reach for that level of continuity from space to space, I don't think is anything that's going to contribute to it. And then the last thing I would say is, back to the hedge thing, it's just kind of troubling. I'm sure that you want the space to look sparkly and clean and inviting at all times. And it's worrisome. It is just worrisome. I would not risk it. I wouldn't. I would certainly look for something that would be more dependably presentable in that dusty, tough, windy, hot environment. That's all.
Thank you, Member Walsh. I don't have a lot to add new. I will just say that I'm very suspicious of the faux ficus and the sort of boxing it out. I think it's just never going to look like a ficus, even though it kind of looks nice in your pictures. So I'm leaning towards using natural materials there. I also agree with the idea of maintaining the stone on the west wall. And then also re-looking at the lighting. So that's, yeah.
I had one more question, though, I think, for staff. It was about the signage also. Are we approving that?
No, you're not approving the signage. You are looking at the signage location and basically specifying or verifying that it's appropriately located and sized to where they're placing it on the facade.
Okay.
Yeah, but you got,
My comments on that are, I think it's appropriately placed, I think it's appropriately sized, and I think either white or pink in neon wouldn't offend me. I think it's great.
my only comment on that is the brightness of it, being sort of at eye level or, sort of right in your face on a street. That would be the only concern I would have, but I think we'll address that when the sign comes before us. Any other comments? Do I hear a motion? Go ahead.
Well, I make a
Member-
motion, yeah, I make a motion to approve with all the comments to be addressed that we mentioned. Easy motion. I don't have to name them all.
Flynn, would you like to review them, please?
Certainly. And maybe I'll ask to clarify some of those comments. Number one, relative to the hedge material, it seems that there's a consensus among the members that you would prefer to see a natural material for the hedge and to maintain the stone on the western portion of the wall. In terms of the lighting, the shape of the fixture is okay. It is the direction and the specifications for the light fixture that the applicant needs to reassess. Is that correct?
Direction's okay. Sorry, direction is okay, just intensity.
Okay. And then in terms of the use of the wood, it is appropriate to use the wood on the facade of the building itself. You've heard comments relative to how to detail the western end of that, to leave a portion, to wrap the stucco around the corner and have it start on the inside face of that wall that connects to the facade of the building there. You've also heard comments relative to not using the wood on the underside of the soffit. I don't know if there was consensus from the board on that point.
I don't think we have consensus on that.
Okay, so if there isn't consensus on that point, then the applicant may go ahead and use the wood on the underside of the soffit. And those were the primary points that I had. One other comment relative to maintaining the barrel cactus or not, it was suggested that perhaps a different material could be utilized in that area. And so that would be up to the applicant to determine if they would like to do that.
I think one condition on if they do decide to use the wood on the ceiling is that they have to come up with a fascia detail that will cover that edge.
Okay.
That exposed edge.
Okay. So with those comments and corrections, the motion is to approve.
Just one more clarification on where does the committee, can I do this now before the motion's been?
It's appropriate to have discussion on a motion, yes.
Yeah, so just to clarify, where they end the wood planks on the west side, how do other members feel about pulling it back to the east side of the stone wall or just bringing it to the corner? I'll put that as a question.
For me, it was just a suggestion, an idea, but I think ultimately my concern is that corner is gonna be awkward if the wood just ends right there. So I think they just need to revisit that and make sure that it's gonna, we see it in 3 dimensions so we can understand how it turns the corner.
Okay, all right, we'll let the motion stand. Any seconds?
Second.
Do I hear a vote? Those in favor?
Aye.
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 One opposed?
Motion passed. Thank you. Let's,
Yeah, but I really appreciate that, but I want us to be comfortable with the staff will meet with you. Okay, perfect, yeah.
At this point, we are basically done, so we're open to committee member comments. Any committee member comments? No? Staff member comments?
Committee members, I am looking at our upcoming agenda on May the 20th. It looks like we may only have one item. I kind of hate to bring you all down here for just one item. I like to have a fuller agenda to make it worth your while. Based on where my staff is with their reports tomorrow, I may move to cancel the meeting on the 20th, but I'll send you an email as soon as I know so that you can plan your calendars accordingly. So again, it looks like we may only have one item, but if that one isn't ready, then we'll cancel the meeting. So that's all that I have for you.
Okay. So we are officially adjourned at 3:58.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.